Welcome to Zyra Quiz, the ultimate place where knowledge meets challenge. Get ready to test your brain with exciting quizzes, intense battles, and mind-blowing facts. From global conflicts to tricky riddles and fun challenges, every level pushes you harder. Think you're smart enough to win? Let's find out, only on Zyra Quiz. Which countries are currently in conflict in 2026? Iran and the United States, the two nations at the center of rising global tensions. What body of water is a major strategic point in the 2026 conflict? The Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point. In which Gulf is the Strait of Hormuz located? The Persian Gulf, a vital energy corridor of the Middle East. What major global commodity route has been disrupted in 2026? Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a lifeline for global oil trade. What type of Iranian retaliation was reported? Missile and drone strikes, swift responses aimed at regional targets. Which allied country is striking Iran alongside the U.S.? Israel, a key strategic partner in the coordinated operations. What year did current 2026 tensions begin? 2026, the year the conflict sharply escalated. What prompted the 2026 crisis? Joint U.S.-Israel strikes on Iranian targets, the spark that ignited retaliation. What is Iran's capital? Tehran, the political and military heart of the country. What command structure leads U.S. military operations? The U.S. President and the Pentagon, the top decision-makers in defense strategy. What major waterway closure has impacted oil exports? The Strait of Hormuz closure, shaking global energy markets. Did Iran target U.S. bases in retaliation? Yes, striking American positions in the Gulf region. What was the name given to the joint attack on Iran? Operation Lion's Roar, a bold and symbolic military campaign. Who was Iran's supreme leader killed early in the 2026 conflict? Ali Khamenei, the highest authority in Iran's political system. How did the 2026 conflict impact global oil prices? Prices jumped sharply, reflecting fears of supply disruption. Which U.S. naval force patrols the region? The U.S. Fifth Fleet, safeguarding strategic waters. Which nearby Middle Eastern state was struck by Iranian missiles? Bahrain, a small but strategically vital Gulf nation. What type of Iranian attacks threatened shipping traffic? Missile and drone assaults, targeting vessels and sea routes. What essential resource supply was disrupted? Global oil supply, the backbone of modern economies. Are nuclear tensions part of the conflict backdrop? Yes, long-standing nuclear disputes intensified the crisis. What global chokepoints crisis reflects this war? The Strait of Hormuz crisis, symbolizing economic vulnerability. Which peninsula saw suspended airline flights due to tensions? The Arabian Peninsula airspace, restricted amid rising threats. What legislative issue arose over the war within the U.S. Congress? The war powers debate, questioning presidential military authority. Which entity issued warnings about ships entering Hormuz? Iran's IRGC, the powerful Revolutionary Guard Command. How did markets react to the conflict? With high volatility and oil surges, signaling investor fear. What military assets did Iran target beyond its borders? U.S. bases in Gulf states, expanding the battlefield zone. Which maritime industry was stalled because of the war? Global freight shipping, delaying trade worldwide. What type of U.S. operations have been heightened? Cybersecurity defenses, preparing for digital retaliation. Which global organization held emergency sessions over the war? The United Nations Security Council, urging restraint and dialogue. What did shipping insurers do amid the crisis? They removed war risk coverage, raising costs dramatically. What broader region could the war expand into? The wider Middle East, risking regional escalation. Which regional group backed by Iran also engaged? Proxy militias, operating beyond direct state forces. What strategic impact could the war have globally? Severe economic shocks, affecting markets everywhere. What major strike event disrupted global logistics? Air and sea cargo delays, slowing international supply chains. What long-term risk is tied to prolonged conflict? Global supply chain strain, lasting beyond the battlefield. Which U.S. president is associated with this conflict? Donald Trump, linked to key strategic decisions. What was one goal cited for attacks on Iran? To halt nuclear ambitions, aiming to prevent weapon development. What type of Iranian forces are used in combat? IRGC forces, elite units of Iran's military structure. How did oil logistics respond to the crisis? Rerouting via the Cape of Good Hope, a longer and costly path. Which Middle Eastern countries had U.S. diplomatic closures? Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Lebanon amid rising threats. What is the sign of broader regional escalation? Militia involvement, spreading instability across borders. What cyber threat has the U.S. prepared for? Iranian-linked cyber attacks, targeting infrastructure and networks. What did Iran threaten if shipping continued through Hormuz? Fires on vessels, escalating maritime danger. What happened to tanker traffic in the strait? It dropped nearly to zero, halting vital shipments. What global industry raised war-related surcharges? Shipping and logistics companies, passing costs to consumers. What was one strategic U.S. military response to protect shipping? Navy escorts, shielding commercial vessels at sea. What does the crisis show about chokepoints and war? Global economic sensitivity, where one strait shakes the world. What humanitarian concern arises from the conflict? Civilian casualties, the tragic cost of war. Which alliance's actions partly escalated conflict? U.S.-Israel coordinated strikes, intensifying hostilities. What is a key condition analysts fear drives prolonged war? Failed diplomacy, when talks collapse and weapons speak.
Thanks for watching Zyra Quiz.